Chosen one, they tortured you and angered God, and now they've lit a fire they can't control. The smoke rising from their crumbling empire isn't coincidence, it's cosmic justice finally catching up to souls who dared to torture someone heaven marked as untouchable. What they thought was breaking you was actually breaking open the very gates of divine retribution, and the flames now consuming their peace, their plans, and their pathetic illusions of control are the same flames they tried to use to destroy you. You're not burning in that fire anymore. You're the one holding the torch that's lighting their judgment. You're walking into their lives like an unsuspecting lamb, carrying something sacred they couldn't name but instinctively wanted to destroy. Your presence alone was a disruption to their carefully orchestrated reality, a frequency so pure it made their compromised souls feel physically uncomfortable. They looked at your authenticity and saw a mirror reflecting every lie they'd told themselves. They witnessed your integrity and felt accused by their own shadows. They observed your capacity for genuine love and realized how hollow their emotional performances had become. The irony would be laughable if it weren't so devastatingly perfect. They thought they were breaking you down piece by piece, stripping away your confidence, your hope, your sense of worth. They gathered around your pain like vultures at a feast, each cruel word, each betrayal, each moment of isolation feeding something dark and hungry inside them. What they couldn't see through their fog of narcissistic blindness, every wound they inflicted was actually carving out space for something magnificent to grow. What began as casual cruelty soon revealed itself as something far more sinister. They didn't just want to hurt you, they wanted to harvest your light. Every time you cried, it gave them a twisted sense of power. Every moment you questioned your sanity, they felt more solid in their delusions. Every night you lay awake wondering what you'd done wrong, they slept peacefully, convinced they were righteously correcting your defiance. But there was something else happening, something they couldn't perceive with their spiritually blinded eyes. Each act of cruelty was being catalogued in realms beyond their comprehension. Every lie they told about you was being recorded by cosmic witnesses. Every moment they chose escalation over mercy, they were unknowingly signing their names to a spiritual contract they didn't understand the terms of. There you were, night after night, collapsing into prayer with nothing but anguish in your chest, thinking God had abandoned you to the wolves. But in the courts of heaven, something entirely different was happening. Each tear that rolled down your face was catalogued as evidence. Every sleepless night spent questioning your sanity was recorded as testimony. The isolation that felt like death was actually a cocoon, and while they celebrated outside thinking they'd buried you alive, the transformation inside was reaching critical mass. Meanwhile, they were accumulating what they didn't know was spiritual debt. Every cruel word added interest to an account they couldn't see. Every manipulation increased the balance on a ledger written in cosmic ink. They thought your silence meant they were winning, not realizing that your restraint was giving heaven permission to build a case so airtight that when judgment finally fell, there would be no appeal process, no legal loopholes, no room for the manipulation they'd mastered in human courts. The cosmic joke is that they were never fighting you at all. Your presence in their lives was like a spiritual X-ray, revealing the fractures in their souls they'd spent years hiding. Your authenticity was a mirror they couldn't bear to look into, because it showed them everything they'd compromised, everything they'd traded away for the illusion of control. So they did what broken people do when confronted with wholeness. They tried to shatter the mirror instead of facing what it revealed. While they were busy throwing stones at your reflection, something ancient and powerful was awakening inside you. Call it divine DNA, call it spiritual programming, call it the universe's backup plan, whatever name you give it, it was activating under pressure like carbon transforming into diamond. The pain they inflicted wasn't destroying you, it was revealing what you'd always been underneath the layers of human conditioning and social programming. This activation wasn't gentle, it felt like dying and being reborn simultaneously, like having your molecular structure rearranged while you remained conscious throughout the process. Every attack they launched forced you deeper into your authentic self, stripping away the false personas you'd worn to make others comfortable. They were unknowingly performing spiritual surgery, cutting away everything that wasn't essential to your divine purpose. Every chosen one carries this hidden trigger system, a spiritual threshold that remains dormant until extreme pressure activates it. They pushed and pushed, thinking they could break you like they'd broken others, not realizing that some souls are designed to become stronger under assault. The very qualities they mocked, your sensitivity, your depth, your inability to play their shallow games, were actually supernatural strengths disguised as weaknesses. As their campaign of psychological torture intensified, something else was beginning to stir in the spiritual atmosphere around them. Opportunities that once flowed effortlessly started encountering mysterious obstacles. Relationships they'd counted on for support began revealing hairline cracks. Money that had always come easily started requiring more effort with less return. They attributed these changes to economic shifts, bad timing, or other people's incompetence, never connecting their struggles to their treatment of you. But you were beginning to notice patterns they couldn't see. The same week they escalated their cruelty, their biggest client mysteriously pulled out of a deal. The day after they spread particularly vicious lies about your character, their most trusted ally began questioning their version of events. The morning following their most calculated attack on your reputation, they woke to find their own credibility under unexpected scrutiny. This was the beginning of what ancient texts call the boomerang effect, energy returning to its source with compound interest. But it wasn't happening quickly enough for human observation, which gave them dangerous confidence in their immunity. They began to believe they were untouchable, that their charm and manipulation could overcome any consequence. This belief would prove to be their undoing. Now, as the cosmic wheels begin to turn in response to their prolonged cruelty, they're starting to feel the first tremors of something they can't name or control. Their sleep is becoming restless, filled with dreams that feel like warnings. Their carefully constructed social circles are developing cracks. Opportunities that once flowed easily are drying up without explanation. They're experiencing the slow-building pressure of spiritual debt coming due, and their confusion is mounting because they still don't understand the forces they've set in motion. The beautiful truth is that heaven doesn't operate on human timelines or human justice systems. While they expected immediate consequences or assumed their silence meant immunity, the divine realm was building a case so airtight, so comprehensive, that when judgment finally falls, there will be no room for excuses, no space for manipulation, no opportunity to twist the narrative. They had countless moments to course-correct, to recognize the sacredness of what they were handling, to choose humility over hubris. Instead, they doubled down on destruction, accumulating spiritual interest on debts they didn't even know they owed. During this period of apparent delay, you were undergoing a metamorphosis so profound that when you finally emerged, you would be unrecognizable to those who knew you before. The tears that had fallen like rain were washing away every false belief about your worth. The isolation that felt like abandonment was actually creating space for divine connection to flourish without human interference. The betrayals that seemed to destroy your faith in humanity were actually teaching you to place your trust in something infinitely more reliable. What they failed to grasp is that touching a chosen one isn't like harming an ordinary person. There are invisible networks of protection, cosmic protocols that activate when someone marked by heaven is mistreated without cause. Your suffering wasn't random, it was purposeful. Not because you deserved pain, but because your capacity to endure it while maintaining your integrity was creating something unprecedented in the spiritual realm. Every moment you chose love over bitterness, forgiveness over revenge, silence over retaliation. You were building up a reservoir of divine favor that's now reaching flood stage. The attack on you was never personal, though it felt devastatingly intimate. It was a spiritual allergic reaction, their lower nature recoiling from the higher frequency you carried without even trying. Your very existence was a constant reminder of possibilities they'd given up on, dreams they'd abandoned, integrity they'd traded for temporary advantage. Instead of allowing your presence to inspire them toward elevation, they chose to drag you toward degradation. Big mistake. See, chosen ones don't drag easily. We're designed with internal gyroscopes that resist corruption, built-in compasses that point toward truth, even when the world around us has lost its magnetic north. The more they pulled, the more evident it became that you were anchored to something they couldn't reach or understand. Their failure to break you wasn't just frustrating, it was terrifying, because it forced them to confront the possibility that their entire worldview might be wrong. As their frustration mounted, their attacks became more sophisticated, more calculated, more cruel. They recruited others to their cause, creating elaborate narratives to justify their behavior. They painted you as difficult, unstable, unreasonable, anything to avoid confronting the truth that your presence exposed about their own character. They needed you to be the problem because accepting that they were the problem would require a level of self-examination they weren't prepared for. But with each escalation, with each new recruit to their campaign of character assassination, they were actually building their own prison. Every person they convinced to join their crusade against you became another witness to their true nature. Every lie they told created another contradiction they would eventually have to explain. Every moment of cruelty they displayed in front of others was another brick in the wall of evidence being constructed against them. So they escalated. What started as casual cruelty became systematic persecution. They rallied others to their cause, painting you as the problem, the difficult one, the one who just wouldn't conform to their version of reality. They created elaborate narratives to justify their actions, convincing themselves and others that their treatment of you was somehow necessary, even righteous. But with each escalation, with each new level of cruelty, they were actually tightening the noose around their own futures. The spiritual realm operates on laws as immutable as physics, and one of those laws is simple. Energy returns to its source. Every ounce of malice they directed toward you has been accumulating interest in a cosmic account they can't close or transfer. Every lie told, every reputation assassinated, every moment of joy they stole from you has been recorded with precision that would make forensic accountants weep with appreciation. During this period of mounting persecution, something remarkable was happening to your spiritual perception. The pain they inflicted was burning away the veils that had previously hidden your true nature from your own awareness. You began to sense things before they happened, to read energy with supernatural accuracy, to understand motivations that people tried to hide. The sensitivity they mocked as weakness was revealing itself as a superpower that allowed you to navigate their deceptions with increasing skill. But it wasn't lost on heaven. Every moment of your growing awareness was being celebrated in realms they couldn't access. Every breakthrough in your understanding was creating ripples of joy among cosmic forces they'd declared war on without realizing it. Every instance of your choosing love over hatred was adding fuel to a fire that would eventually consume everything false in their carefully constructed reality. And now the bill is coming due. The first signs of their cosmic debt collection were subtle. A missed opportunity here, a relationship strain there, a financial hiccup that seemed unrelated to anything specific. But you, with your newly awakened spiritual perception, could see the patterns they couldn't. You watched with a mixture of sadness and fascination as the natural consequences of their choices began to manifest in ways that seemed coincidental to everyone else, but felt deeply significant to those with eyes to see. While their world begins its slow-motion collapse under the weight of their own choices, something extraordinary is happening to you. That pressure cooker of pain they locked you inside has forged you into something unrecognizable from who you were before. The tears that fell like rain have become rivers of wisdom. The isolation that felt like death has become a sanctuary of inner strength. The betrayals that seemed to destroy your faith in humanity have actually refined it into something more mature, more selective, more powerful. You're discovering that the sensitivity they mocked as weakness is actually a superpower that allows you to read energy with supernatural accuracy. The depth they dismissed as overthinking is revealing itself as a capacity for understanding that cuts through surface illusions like a laser through tissue paper. The compassion they exploited as naivety has evolved into discernment so sharp it can detect manipulation before it fully forms in someone's mind. The most beautiful irony is that their attempts to diminish you have resulted in your expansion beyond anything you thought possible. They tried to make you smaller, to fit you into their tiny boxes of limitation and lack, but chosen ones aren't designed to shrink. We're designed to transform pressure into power, wounds into wisdom, betrayal into breakthrough. Every attack they launched was actually fuel for a fire they didn't know they were starting. As your transformation accelerated, theirs did too, but in the opposite direction. While you were growing stronger, more intuitive, more connected to your authentic power, they were becoming more desperate, more scattered, more disconnected from any source of genuine strength. The contrast was becoming so stark that even casual observers were beginning to notice something significant was happening. Their previously smooth social interactions were becoming awkward as their masks began slipping at inopportune moments. Their once reliable charm was starting to feel forced and manipulative to people who had previously fallen under its spell. Their ability to control narratives was weakening as too many contradictions in their stories began emerging simultaneously. Meanwhile, doors that had been locked for years were suddenly swinging open in your life. People who mattered were beginning to see your true worth without any effort on your part to convince them. Opportunities that aligned perfectly with your deepest purpose were manifesting with stunning synchronicity. Resources you needed were appearing through channels you hadn't even thought to explore. Now, as their carefully constructed facades begin to crumble, as their networks of enablers start to see through the smoke and mirrors, as their reputation for charm starts revealing itself as a mask for manipulation, they're beginning to understand that they weren't just fighting you. They were fighting the force that sent you, and that's a battle they were never equipped to win. The fire that's now consuming their false foundations isn't one you lit. Your hands remain clean, your conscience clear, your heart still capable of love despite everything they put it through. The flames that are reducing their illusions to ash are coming from a source they can't negotiate with, can't manipulate, can't charm their way out of facing. They danced on your grave while you were still breathing, not realizing they were actually dancing on a volcano that was building pressure with every cruel step. Watch now as the same people who laughed at your tears begin to shed their own, not from remorse, many of them are still too hardened for that, but from the dawning realization that they've awakened something far beyond their ability to control or contain. The spiritual forces they set in motion when they chose prolonged cruelty over basic human decency are now moving through their lives like a wildfire through dry grass, consuming everything built on foundations of deception. Their finances, once stable, begin showing mysterious strain. Relationships they counted on for support start revealing their conditional nature. Opportunities that seemed guaranteed begin slipping away without explanation. Health issues emerge from nowhere, stress manifesting in ways that medical science can treat but not cure, because the root cause exists in realms beyond physical examination. The beautiful justice of it all is that each consequence they experience mirrors perfectly the type of pain they inflicted on you. The isolation they forced upon you returns to them as social exile. The financial stress they caused through their interference manifests as their own monetary struggles. The reputational damage they inflicted through lies comes back as their own credibility crumbles under the weight of exposed contradictions. Meanwhile, something miraculous is happening in your world. Doors that were locked for years are suddenly swinging open. People who matter are beginning to see your true worth. Opportunities that align with your deepest purpose are manifesting with stunning synchronicity. It's as if the universe itself is apologizing for the delay, making up for lost time with interest compounded. The contrast becomes so stark that even neutral observers begin to notice the pattern. Those who stood by silently while you were persecuted are starting to piece together the connection between their current struggles and their past choices. Some will have the wisdom to seek forgiveness while the window remains open. Others, trapped in pride and denial, will ride their sinking ships all the way to the bottom. Their downfall isn't your victory condition. Their suffering isn't your healing balm. By the time divine justice begins its work in their lives, you've already transcended the need for their pain to validate your worth. The fire that's consuming their false kingdoms isn't burning for your entertainment, it's burning for cosmic balance, for universal justice, for the protection of other chosen ones who might cross their paths in the future. This is the moment when you realize the full magnitude of what's been happening. The torture they subjected you to wasn't random cruelty, it was your initiation into a level of spiritual authority they could never reach or understand. Every moment you chose love over hatred, every time you bit your tongue instead of speaking of destruction, every night you wept alone instead of gathering armies for revenge, you were accumulating a kind of power that operates beyond human comprehension. The revelation hits with stunning clarity. They were never your enemies. They were your unwitting allies in a cosmic plan so vast and intricate that even they played their roles perfectly without understanding the script. Their cruelty was the pressure required to activate gifts that would have remained dormant in a comfortable life. Their betrayal was the catalyst needed to burn away everything false about your self-perception. Their persecution was the fire that forged you into someone capable of carrying the weight of divine purpose. This understanding doesn't diminish the reality of their choices or absolve them of consequences. It simply places their actions within a larger context that reveals how even evil can be transformed into good when it encounters a soul strong enough to alchemize poison into medicine. They chose cruelty, and they must face the results of that choice. But their cruelty, when it met your divine resilience, became the very force that catapulted you into your authentic power. The crown they tried to crush on your head has been forged stronger by their attempts to destroy it. The light they tried to extinguish has only burned brighter from the pressure. The voice they tried to silence has found its true frequency in the depths of enforced solitude. The fire they started thinking it would consume you has indeed consumed something, but it was the false version of yourself that needed to burn away to reveal the sovereign soul underneath. As this cosmic drama reaches its crescendo, as their world crumbles and yours expands, as justice flows like water finally finding its level, the final plot points converge in perfect symmetry. The fire that began with their first cruel word now burns as divine illumination in your elevated consciousness. The tears that started as expressions of human pain have become rivers of compassion flowing toward other wounded souls who need to know they're not alone. The silence they mistook for weakness has transformed into a voice of authority that speaks with power because it was earned in the crucible of undeserved suffering. The isolation they imposed, thinking it would break your spirit, became the sanctuary where you learned to commune with forces beyond human comprehension. The reputation they tried to destroy became irrelevant as you discovered your worth wasn't dependent on human opinion. The future they tried to sabotage opened up like a flower toward sunlight, revealing possibilities more beautiful than anything you could have imagined before the fire burned away your limitations. Hey, this is Mike and Ari cutting into your regularly scheduled Chosen One programming for just a moment. We are the founders of the Obsidian Inner Order and the Astral Atom Network. And we're done playing nice. We're in a spiritual war. You know it, we know it, and we're out here bleeding for this mission full time. I'm hungry for fourth dimensional Archon blood, but we need the ammunition. So listen, when you join the Inner Order, you're not just supporting us, you're getting access to exclusive tools they never wanted you to have. Psychic self-defense training, targeted individual intel, spiritual warfare tactics they scrub from the internet, and every week we meet in secret, chosen ones only on Zoom. No filters, no fluff, just real gnosis, real family, real power. It's a 360-degree win. You get what you need. We get to keep fighting. So don't just watch, rather polike, share this video to everyone you know, now, and join the Obsidian Inner Order. Let's finish what we started, link in the description, let's freaking go. As you step fully into this new reality, you begin to understand that your journey was never about them at all. They were simply the instruments the universe used to play the symphony of your awakening. Their cruelty was the discord that made the harmony of your healing more beautiful by contrast. Their darkness was the backdrop that made your light shine more brilliantly. Their hatred was the pressure that compressed your love into something pure and unbreakable. This realization brings a profound peace that transcends forgiveness because it moves beyond the need for forgiveness entirely. They cannot take credit for your success because their participation was unconscious and unwilling. They cannot diminish your achievement because their understanding remains limited to the realm where such things matter. They exist now in a parallel reality where consequences unfold according to laws they've never bothered to learn, while you inhabit a space where those same laws become allies in your continued expansion. The fire that once threatened to consume everything you held dear has become the eternal flame that lights your path forward. It burns not with the destructive heat of human anger, but with the transformative warmth of divine love made manifest through mortal experience. This is the fire that cannot be doused by earthly waters, cannot be diminished by human breath, cannot be contained by any force operating at frequencies lower than the divine. Welcome to your coronation, chosen one. The fire is here, the justice is flowing, and the future is yours to write. Not because you destroyed your enemies, but because you allowed divine love to transform you so completely that their hatred could no longer touch the sacred space where your true self resides. The war is over, and love has won, not through conquest, but through transformation. The fire they lit thinking it would end your story has become the very flame that will light the way for others walking the path behind you. This is your emergence, this is your time. The fire burns on, but now it burns for you, not against you, and that makes all the difference. The smoke that once spelled out your name in letters of accusation now writes it across the sky in letters of gold, announcing to all creation that another chosen one has risen from the ashes of persecution into the glory of divine purpose. The fire they couldn't control has become the light by which you'll guide others home.